Welcome to this webinar of BSUP. Like I just said, the presentations will be recorded and shared with the participants. And if you have questions, you can ask them via the Q&A. And we will address them. The webinar will consist of two parts. The first part is the European part, and the second part is a part with Belgium information. And we will, after every part, we will address your questions. We are very happy today to have our colleague, Livia Menichetti, the Director General of EHPM. Livia, are you there? I will stop sharing my presentation and give you the floor to upload your...
Here, Valerie, you can see me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon. And thank you for accepting our invitation. It's always a pleasure to have you.
For me too. Thank you for inviting me. And for me, it's the same. It's always a pleasure to participate to the events organized by BSUP. So I'm happy to be here. And I hope that I will provide some, let's say, interesting information to the attendees that are here today. I will try to share my screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes. I will go on presentation mode. So
perfect, like that. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just some problems with my mouse, but I will manage. Okay, so today I'm here to provide you with a regulatory update from a European point of view. I will say, let's say, a few words about the main hot topics that we at European level are addressing. And I would like to highlight that always in cooperation with our members and in, I would say, very close cooperation with Valerie and Linda, with the BSUP team that is always available to support the European Association and very active. And I will never stop thanking them for their commitment to the work of the EHPM. So thank you, Valerie and Linda. So we will touch upon setting maximum levels of vitamins and minerals. Obviously, I will tell you a few words about Article 8 and the state of play of the several dossiers that are already under Article 8 procedure. We will talk a bit about nutrivigilance, probiotics, novel foods that, as I always said, has become the new Article 8 for the supplement sector, and health claims, obviously. So, you know that, you probably know that the European Commission priority regarding food supplements of the current mandate, the mandate that will end in June, when we will have the European elections, was to set maximum levels of vitamins and minerals. This is a requirement foreseen in the food supplement directive. Let's say there was already an attempt in the past to set levels. The attempt was, let's say, failed because of a huge lobby done by the UK that, as you know, now is not a member of the EU anymore. And this is why a group of member states led by Germany asked the Commission to resume its work on this dossier. So 3 years ago, a task force made of certain member states' authorities and the Commission was created to reflect on the, let's say, principles that will govern the approach to calculate maximum levels of vitamins and minerals. And we knew from the beginning that one of the models that were on the table was the German model, the BFR model, which is a quite restrictive model that was highly taken into took into consideration, as you might understand, also because Germany was the leading state that asked for this work to be resumed. So we are aware, and what I would like to highlight is that everything that I will say today, apart from certain things that I will highlight, but most of the information that I will tell you, that I will disclose today, are unofficial information. Why? Because the Commission has asked member states not to disclose any information about the ongoing discussions. Of course, our main task is doing lobbying at European level. Our members, national associations, their main task is to do lobby at national level, and thanks to the great job of our members, we managed to get some information via the member states authorities, and a few from the Commission, but very general from the Commission. That's why in this slide I highlighted that this is an unofficial feedback that we received about the meeting that was held, the working group meeting that was held at the end of 2023. This was a meeting during which the members of the task force, so certain member states and the Commission, disclosed from the first time the outcome of the discussions of the 3 years work of the task force on the governing principles. So it was that will be taken into consideration when setting maximum levels. And again, the Commission really highlighted and asked member states not to disclose any information. We were aware that a document was circulated among member states, but we couldn't have, we haven't seen it basically. So we don't know what it was in this document, but we understood that the EC, let's say, suggested a very restrictive approach based on 50-50 split between food supplements and fortified foods, and that their intention was to use children intake data to calculate the maximum levels for adults, which would result, of course, in extremely low levels for food supplements, for vitamins and minerals in food supplements. So after this, let's say, unofficial feedback, we at the HPM, we had already started our lobbying before, but we activated our network even more. And what to say, we prepared a position paper on this topic that we shared with a group of supportive MEPs, and we asked our members to share it with their respective MEPs. And we started to work on an initiative to make a group of MEPs sending a letter to the Director General of the European Commission, to the Director General, sorry, of DG Sante, and to the Commissioner of Food for Food Safety and Health, Kyriakides, asking to do an impact assessment before taking a decision before the EU election.
I believe, Livia, you're losing your connection.
Can you?
Yeah, now you are back.
You are back, Livia. We can
You're
hear
back.
you and see you. Frozen again, I think.
We are sorry for this technical problem.
Mhm.
Can you hear
Okay.
Valerie
Yes,
now?
you are back. Thanks.
You are
Yes.
back, Livia.
Okay, where I don't know where you stopped hearing me. More or less, I
Yeah,
was.
just your last sentence, I believe.
Ah, okay. Sorry. Okay. So I was saying that we sent this letter. Of course, the MEPs sent this letter, and I'm happy to say that we succeeded in the lobbying somehow, because the Commission, I mean, we understood that the Commission was not happy to receive this letter from MEPs, but
No.
It's not working. It's not working, Livia. What we could do is changing the
Wait,
other. Try to connect once more.
yeah.
Yeah, now you are back.
I don't know what it's going on. So let me just check something. Maybe I can solve it. Let me see. I'm just trying to see, because maybe my laptop is going automatic.
Yes, we lose you. We have lost you again. So something is unstable. Yeah, there you are again.
Okay,
Yeah.
now it should work like this. If not, I will change location, but otherwise I think it will work. So what I was saying, that our actions were twofold. So from one side, we targeted the parliament, and we had this letter initiative. And from the other side, of course, we targeted also the permanent representations, but also the national authorities. Those were the main messages that we shared, both with European Parliament and with the permanent representations, but also that then we took at the national level. The fact that there are no safety concerns regarding vitamins and minerals that required a rushed decision. The lack of transparency, the fact that stakeholders have been left outside the process, the fact that there are well-functioning national approaches that should be taken into account, including the Belgian one. You have Belgian levels that work pretty well and that are quite higher than the BFR model levels, and the fact that an impact assessment should be absolutely conducted. This is really imperative as far as the industry is concerned, because this decision will have a huge impact on the market, and we cannot accept that the Commission will do that without doing an impact assessment. As this decision will also have a huge impact on consumers' choice, level of consumer choice. So it would be of extremely importance, and also that this kind of top-down approach may put citizens may push citizens towards anti-EU sentiments and parties right before the European elections. At national level, what we did, we continued our meetings with national authorities, more in specific we met again with the Italian and the Greek authority. We continue to sponsor, let's say, our model, the EHPM model, and at the same time to ask for additional information, although, as I said, the Commission had told clearly member states not to disclose anything. We asked member states that we met to pursue and to ask the Commission to do an impact assessment. We asked member states to ask the Commission to set at least 2 levels, one for children and one for adults, because it cannot be accepted that only one level will be set. We ask national authorities to request the Commission to take into consideration already existing national approaches and not to, let's say, apply an arbitrary, non-scientific approach, let's say. So this was really the arguments of our lobby at national level. This is everything that I have already mentioned already, so I put it into 2 slides just to make it a bit more clear how important those points really are. But what I'm happy to tell you today is that there was an additional meeting that was held at the end of April. Of course, again, take this as unofficial sources, and it is not you know, the dossier is not closed yet, but at least it seems that at the last meeting, the Commission presented 2 sets of levels, one for adults and one for children for 6 nutrients. So they really suggested levels. The European Commission asked member states to provide the scientific background of their national approaches, of their already existing national approaches, and they decided to meet again in June, July. Why I started this my sentence in a positive tone, because you can see that at least let's say 2 elements of our request were, let's say, taken into consideration. Although I want to make clear what the Commission made clear during the meeting to member states. They said we are presenting today at this meeting 2 levels, one for children and one for adults. However, we are not sure that we will do that in our final proposal. So, you know, always very careful with the feedback that we receive and with the feedback that we give also, because this dossier is it's still, you know, a very difficult one, and it will be, you know, still very difficult, as we also know that the Commission doesn't want to do an impact assessment. They mentioned they mentioned this to me this morning again. They confirmed we are not going to do any impact assessment. They said that the next meeting will be in June or early July, and that we as stakeholders will be consulted. However, they will do they will do this in a form of an advisory group meeting and of a call for evidence. They will work on a staff working document, but they won't do an impact assessment. And as you know, recently, I think last week, EFSA published the public consultation for the last nutrient that they are, you know, for which they are updating their ULs. It's vitamin E, so there is a public consultation in progress, and is the last nutrient of the group of nutrients for which EFSA was going to update the upper levels. So going back a little bit on the next steps, we could, expect to be consulted, let's say, after the summer. not before the summer, not during the summer break, but in autumn, in the forms that I have mentioned. I want to conclude by saying that EHPM had already prepared for this, let's say, lobbying campaign by updating our model, our previous model, the so-called ERNAL model, and this update was already presented to DG Sante in December 2022, so 2 years ago. And we have presented our model to multiple national authorities. One of the first ones was Belgium. And we also had meetings with Greeks, follow-up meetings with the Greek and the Italian authorities. And of course, in addition to that, part of it I have already disclosed. You know what we have done. EHPM is implementing a public affairs strategy to lobby for proportionate and realistic levels for vitamins and minerals for food supplements in Europe. And this is really the main dossier on which we are currently active. Another important dossier is obviously Article 8. You know Article 8 very well. You know what it can result, what can be the result of Article 8, prohibition, restriction, scrutiny. I'm not going to tell you everything about all the dossiers because otherwise we would need, you know, a whole day. But I just want to highlight what's new. So what news there are. There is news about HADs. On the 20th of March, EFSA NDA panel presented adopted the outcome of its opinion on other plants that were under union scrutiny. The Commission had told me at that time that the opinion should have been, should be published more or less a month after the adoption. However, this hasn't happened yet because there were some confidentiality issues raised by some companies that presented additional data during the scrutiny, and so the publication of the final opinion has been delayed. However, because you know that we as EHPM, we supported some of the additional studies that were presented during the scrutiny. We were in contact with one of the associations that submitted those studies. Is an Italian association that did that for us. I mean, and EFSA, we are aware about the fact that EFSA shared already the conclusions of their, let's say, evaluation with them, with the actors that have submitted them. And unfortunately, the conclusions are not positive for our sector. EFSA, it seems, because of course I haven't read the opinion because the opinion is not public yet, but it seems that EFSA thinks that the extracts on which the studies were made were not sufficiently characterized. And EFSA thinks that since other plants contain aloe, amodin, and emodin, which are genotoxic and cancerogenic, also the additional plants are genotoxic and cancerogenic, and there is no even the need for EFSA to evaluate those data. You can imagine that this is really bad news for the sector. During my call with the Commission this morning, the Commission only told me that the conclusions of the EFSA opinion are quite straightforward and that they will start working on the final regulatory proposal, as soon as the EFSA opinion will be published. They will call a meeting of member states that will discuss EFSA conclusions, and then they will proceed with the final regulatory proposal. EHPM has been active together with its members from the very beginning of the HID dossier, from the call for data before 2018 till now, till we participated as interested party to the one of the court cases that were done against the European Commission in the framework of the European Court of Justice. We are still waiting for the final ruling of the European Court of Justice. We will see. However, I would say that we should expect a negative let's say, result for the other plants too. Of course, this needs to be confirmed. So, but what we have been told, of course, doesn't give us a lot of hope for other plants. Redis rice, also another important dossier. You know that currently levels below 3 milligrams are under union scrutiny. And EHPM has been really active to achieve this compromise, because I always say that most of the member states were in favor of a full ban and still are. So we always need to bear in mind this, that there are a lot of member states that are in favor of a full ban, that were at that time in favor of full ban of monocolins from Redis rice. But thanks to the lobby that we have done, and I think that Belgium would be in favor of the ban of Redis rice. I don't know, Valerie, maybe you can confirm, but from the last exchange.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, I can confirm, indeed.
Yeah, because when we saw at our event, the Belgian delegate, I mean, it was pretty clear that she was of that opinion. But anyhow, so we launched a pilot project to avoid the full ban after the scrutiny. You should know that the scrutiny with the deadline of the scrutiny will be the 21st of June, so within 1 month, because today is the 31st of May, so just a month from today, from now. We are going to submit data, and then we will see what EFSA will do with this data, because they need to evaluate them. They need to produce another a final opinion, let's say, and then the Commission will take a final decision, you know. But I'm not able to give you a deadline or a calendar, you know, because everything will depend on how long EFSA will take to evaluate the data, that the additional data that would be submitted, you know, during the scrutiny. So it's really not easy for us to estimate, to make an estimation of the calendar. We are going as EHPM to submit the result of our pilot project, Companies Alliance for Vigilance Systems. And I'm happy to say that, again, Belgium was a very active partner in that. So there were some companies, members of BSAP, that actively participated to the project. Yes, we are going to present a report to EFSA. The report will be prepared by the professors of the University of Bologna that have cooperated with us on this dossier, let's say. On alpha-lipoic acid, I also had the chance to discuss this dossier with the Commission. What I can tell you is that, of course, I'm not going to repeat. You are aware of the conclusions of the EFSA opinion, of the fact that this was, you know, a mandate really related not to the general safety of alpha-lipoic acid, but to the link between ALA intake and the development of the insulin autoimmune syndrome, so a very specific mandate. And that EFSA concluded that the risk is high for a specific genetic polymorphism. So it was quite a balanced EFSA opinions, we can say. However, the positions of the member states are quite diverse. They are different. There are some member states that are in favor of a full ban. There are member states that are in favor of a restriction, so of additional warnings on the label and also scrutiny. Members that are in favor of only additional warnings, like Belgium and Italy, for instance, and a lot of undecided. The Commission had asked member states to give feedback in writing by October 2023. However, they haven't yet discussed this dossier again. And I spoke with the Commission this morning, and they said that they will try to do so when they will organize the meeting to discuss the EFSA opinion on HIDs. However, they said that there are different member states' position, and there are a group of member states that are against warnings because they think that warnings are for medicines and not for supplements, should be used for medicines and not for supplements. But I mean, we need to wait and see what will be what route the Commission will decide to take. We lobbied for it as well, and we are still doing so. We suggested a text, a wording of the warning that we suggested the Commission to have. The Commission said that they will take it into consideration. So we need to wait and see what it will happen. You are also aware about the other substances for which an Article 8 has been launched and mandate accepted by EFSA. There were already call for data that have been launched and closed by EFSA. We as EHPM, we presented the data for berberine. We submitted the data for berberine, and EFSA will have to complete their scientific opinions by the 15th of May 2025. It's the first time that the Commission gives 2.5 years to EFSA to prepare the opinions. And we think that this is because the Commission really wants to focus on setting maximum level first and reduce a little bit the amount of work they are putting on Article 8 files, let's say. Yes, they launched also public consultation. Of course, we as EHPM, we participated both to the public consultation on the draft protocols on how to do the studies launched by EFSA first, and then to the call for data. And we continue to cooperate with the University of Siena in order to produce additional studies and data that we have already submitted within the berberine for call for data. So now we have concluded the two main topics, and I'm happy to say a few words about vigilance. But before doing that, I'm always put this, let's say, slide in my presentation just to say, just to describe the, let's say, the environment in which myself and the EHPM Secretariat and also the National Association's Secretariat work when it comes to defending the supplement sector is an environment that has been influenced by a negative perception of our sector. I mean, you can see it in Belgium. I mean, Valerie responds to negative articles almost every day that the Flemish-speaking press or the French-speaking press publishes. I mean, that's something that happens every day, and the elements that are taken into, I mean, the arguments that are, mentioned in these articles are always the same. The safety is questioned of supplement, the quality, the truthfulness of the labeling, the comparison with other sectors, mainly the medical one, the role of supplementation is questioned, And also sometimes the absence of a vigilance system for food supplements is also used as an argument to, let's say, question the safety and the existence of food supplements. And this has occurred both at national and European level. But at European level, I mean, in multiple occasions, the European institutions have highlighted this element as a negative element. And in the meanwhile, I mean, we have seen, you have seen it with Belgium. I mean, also Belgium has adopted a system of vigilance, a mandatory vigilance system with a lot of issues, but I guess Valerie and Linda will talk about this later. But this is the chart that we have taken from the ANSES and BFR publications of the countries in which vigilance system for food supplements exist. Yeah, I mean, you can see that there are a lot of member states in which vigilance system exist, non-mandatory in most of them, but you know, vigilance is something that it's happening and that it happen, in our opinion, for it will be one sooner or later mandatory also at the European level, we think, you know. And you can see that from the multiple references, European references to the lack of vigilance system for food supplements. I have mentioned here a few, you know, the publication of the opinions of the European Economic and Social Committees and of the European Council, you know, the Portuguese presidency on the food supplement market, the Erice Manifesto. This was an initiative that also to which also the Belgian government participated, of a group of national authorities that discuss the possibility to create a vigilance system for food supplements. Also, the European Parliament in their report about claims, that I will say something later on, mention the absence of the vigilance system for food supplements as a sign of the lack of safety and quality of food supplements. And this is why we at the HPM, we have decided that it was the time to move and to do something. We decided to, you know, to prepare guidelines. Of course, those are guidelines. These are guidelines, so non-mandatory, but it's a paper which has the objective to support companies, even the smaller ones, to have or to set up a vigilance system in their own company, to support and to guide them. We launched these guidelines that is available on our website during an event organized in Brussels, to which also the Belgian authorities participated, as you can see, but also some, I mean, we were able to have some really good best practices from some of our members that showed that vigilance is not something new for the supplement sector, and that there are indeed companies that are already implementing systems, vigilance systems, and it's not, you know, completely new for us. This was really an important event for our association and our members. Another dossier, let's say ongoing open dossier, is the use of the term probiotics. You are aware this is really, you know, an issue, especially in Belgium, also in Belgium, I mean, because compared to other countries, like for instance, Italy or France, where there is the possibility to use the term, I mean, thanks to in Italy to their national guidelines, and in France of the latest, let's say, approved national approach, category approach. Well, in Belgium, you cannot use this term. I mean, and the Belgian authorities are really strict about the implementation of the European Commission position that has always been probiotic is a health claim, and they mentioned probiotic as an example of health claim in the guidance document of the health claim regulation. So this is really an important topic. And plus, Belgium is asking the Commission to have a European, let's say, solution to this problem, but the Commission doesn't want to address this issue. The Commission sticks to its interpretation and doesn't want to move from it. So we at EHPM, we set up a working group, and the vice chair of this working group is Valerie. And we, to do a proactive work on the probiotic dossier, we develop some technical guidelines and a policy statement that will accompany the guidelines calling for a harmonized EU category approach. The two documents will be launched at our members meeting next 27th of June. As I said, the novel food regulation is the new Article 8, let's say, because there are major problematic elements for the supplement sector regarding the implementation of this regulation. Primarily, I mean, I can mention a few. So what constitutes a novel food, what constitutes an acceptable proof of consumption, the date that is the cutoff date, May 1997. I want to recall that in May 1997, there was not even a definition of food supplements, which arrived soon after, in 2002, not soon after, some years after, in 2002, with the approval of this Food Supplement Directive that defined food supplements. So the issue we have as a sector with the date is a pretty serious one, an important one. And we have established a very good channel of cooperation of communication with DG Sante, with the unit that deals with novel foods. We had the occasion to exchange with them in a transparent way multiple times, and they fully, let's say, understood our positions. However, we have understood that very often the issues we have come from a different national interpretation of this regulation. And this is quite problematic, because each member state can interpret the law differently. We have, of course, every time there is a problem with the novel food status of an ingredient, EHPM launches call for data. We support our members to gather valuable proof of consumption. We have regular exchanges with DG Sante. We succeeded also to put on the agenda certain issues through our connection with the DG Sante. And as I mentioned already, we set up a dedicated task force to develop, let's say, proactive solutions to address to those challenges that I have already mentioned. Again, Valerie is here to vice chair of this task force, and she is doing a great job together with the chair, Magdalene Selanikli, to produce these two papers, one technical paper and one political paper that will be published in the course of this year. I will just touch upon very quickly on, you know, some cases in which we were successful, and one of those is obviously the Belgian case, where thanks to the cooperation between BSAP, EHPM, and Sinadiet, we managed to make the Belgian authorities change its mind, let's say, and include again, the plants into the royal degree, except with the exception of pelargonium that was, that was the subject of an Article 4 decision. And we also managed to share some valuable proof of consumption with the Commission and with Member State on astragal root case. However, we are still waiting for some news on how this the outcome of this dossier will be, since there might be an Article 4 that will be done via Italy, via committees, via companies. So we are still waiting for some news on that. So I mentioned already the let's say the work that the European Parliament did on the nutrition and health claims made on foods. So just before the election, a rapporteur from Luxembourg, Tilly Metz, decided to draft this report. This report, I would like to highlight, has no legal value, no legal, let's say, implications, because this is just a report. So it's not inserted in the field of a decision-making process, but it might give impetus to the discussion after the elections, of course. The report was adopted in January 2024. And, I mean, what is peculiar in this report is that in the beginning, the first version of it was quite proportionate towards supplements. There was also a reference to the possibility for supplements to use tradition of use when it comes to the substantiation of certain claims. Whereas after, the decision-making process, let's say, that included the presentation of amendments of other MEPs, well, those amendments made the report a bit more negative for our sector, and even the reference to tradition of use was toned down quite importantly. And this was the result, of the lobby of the, let's say, traditional herbal medicine sector. They lobby really hard in order to exclude tradition of use for supplements. But of course, again, this is not a paper that has a, legislative implication. However, as I said, it's an important piece of work from a political point of view. But we have done a lot of work, of lobbying work on this report too. We have shared our position paper with the members of the European Parliament. We defended the concept of tradition of use, but also of innovation, so going beyond tradition. And we will continue to do so in the next Commission mandate. So for us, this is not a lost battle, but it's the beginning of, let's say, a political, let's say, battle for the next mandate. And as I said, so we were quite active during the advocacy and during the decision-making process, and we also sponsored our proposal, which is the EHPM graded approach for botanical health claims that we had already launched back in 2021 and presented to the European Commission. And at that time, the Commission told us, no, this is not a priority for us at the moment. Also, we participated lately to the consultation launched by the EDQM on the correct use of botanical supplements. EDQM is a part of the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe is not a European institution, is a body that mainly deals with human rights and has a section that deals with medicines, and it's linked with EMA. And this this section, let's say, is the EDQM, European Directorate for the Quality of Medicines and Healthcare of the Council of Europe. And they launched a stakeholder consultation of 2 drafts documents, a guide for healthcare providers and a brochure for consumers on botanical supplements. The deadline was the 5th of April. We submitted our contribution. What I can say is that although the objective of the consultation was meaningful in the sense that we are aware about the fact that botanical supplements should be used always by following the instructions that are, that are described in the packaging or, by the manufacturer, and can have some interactions if the consumer is taking other medications, or it's taking medications at the same time. So it's very important, the objective of this consultation. However, we had a lot of remarks because we saw that the way those documents were written were quite critical to the supplement sector. Like, there was no regulation of our products, whereas there is, and quite a lot. So we made those arguments clear in our contribution. And we were supposed to participate to a stakeholder forum organized by the EDQM next Monday. But today I received the information that this meeting has been canceled, and they will probably organize something else in the future. So we will see. But in any case, we will receive some feedback from the EDQM on the let's say, contribution that we submitted. So I'm achieving the end of my long and intensive presentation by saying that in June, we will be called to renew the European Parliament, and that those elections are quite important. I was very, surprised because I had some, chats with Belgian friends over the weekend, and they told me, we are not aware about the candidates at the European Parliament. There is not a lot of discussion in the press about the European elections. It's more on the regional, on the municipalities elections. So I was surprised because, of course, I'm someone that I work with European institutions. So for me, European elections are super important, and also, but it seems that there is a little perception of how important those elections will be. But what I can tell you is that, of course, the result of the elections will determine, let's say, the next Commission mandate, because it will be the new elected parliament that will appoint the next commissioners, and then the next working program of the Commission for the next 5 years. So it's really, really important democracy, let's say, exercise. We have launched I would say not launched, but we have again, reintegrated our public affairs strategy with new objectives. We have, of course, long-term objectives of our public affairs strategy that are related with the reputation and the perception of our sector for the reasons that I explained before. Long-term objectives include also, the importance of innovation for our sector. And of course, we have built, a strategy that we have already put in place that, that sees a period, let's say, before the elections and after the elections. And our members are really active participants to this strategy. We are going also to launch in the next couple of weeks the EHPM manifesto for the European elections, and we will prepare and present the first week of June, so the week of the elections, a toolkit that we are preparing for our members on how to disseminate this manifesto. Manifesto is really and also how to, let's say, to engage with decision makers after the elections, so with the new elected MEPs and so on and so forth. So the manifesto, what it is, it's a short political document that summarizes our political asks for the next mandate, and which includes of course the main I would say dossiers, the main challenges for the European food supplement sector. And we are going to, disseminate it at European level, but also at national level through our members. And I already mentioned that on the 27th of June, we will organize our members meeting here in Brussels. It will be the occasion to present and to speak about our manifesto, but also to launch the probiotic guidelines and to discuss also the next priority, the priorities for the next Commission mandate. It will be structured into two sessions. One session in the morning for open to public, to the general public, where we will have a panel discussion, ideally also with some politicians, newly elected MEPs, and in the afternoon, a members-only session, more operational on what we need to do. So you are all invited if you want to participate, of course. And clearly, I mean, at the HPM, we are also following other dossiers, but of course, I couldn't cover them all, but I'm happy to reply to your questions if you have some. And I'm sorry for the technical issues regarding my connection, but I hope that you all heard me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this great update, Livia. I want to thank you also for your daily commitment in favor of our industry, for the nice collaboration that we have, and for the fact that you are always available for us, for be it in a webinar, be it at our General Assembly. So thank you so much. It was really great.
My pleasure.
Going to the questions, well, I think was not only a great update, but it was also very clear, as we do not have a lot of questions. I'm going to them. There was a question about the Article 8 outcomes and if they are also applicable to the UK.
Well, no, in the sense that the UK is out of the EU. So no, they can take their own decisions. There was, I think, an article about the position of the UK authorities regarding HADs, because they are evaluating whether, because of course, I mean, UK receives the position of the European Commission and might decide whether to align with them or not to align with them. So it is not automatic that they will align with what the Commission will decide on HADs. And I think that they will not do that this time. But we will have more details, I think, at the next Botanicals Working Group meeting of the HPM, where our colleagues from the UK will participate. But the answer to the question is no, they do not apply to the UK.
Yeah, they are in a quite comfortable situation, I would say. If they like what is decided in Europe, they follow it. And if they do not like it, they do their own legislation. So, which is really opportunistic, I would say.
Yes, it is.
Then there was some confusion about wet yeast rice and what you said about Belgium. So somebody asked if wet yeast yeast is already banned in Belgium,
No,
which
no,
is
no,
not
no,
the case. Yeah.
No. Of course, it's not already banned. I was talking about the member states' position. So whether authorities were in favor of a full ban or not when there was the discussion, And what I mentioned, and excuse me for the confusion, is that there is a large part of member states authorities that are in favor of a full ban. And we think that in light of what Dominique de Clock told us during our event on vigilance regarding Redis rice, I think that Belgium is one of the member states that will be in favor of a full ban, but it's not. I mean, at the moment, Redis rice is not banned in food supplements in Europe and therefore not in Belgium. So that's something that it might happen at the end of the scrutiny period, but we are doing everything we can to avoid this outcome, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's for the clarification. Very clear. There was also one of the participants asking if a maximum level would be set for all the nutrients, for all the vitamins and minerals. Do we have an idea?
Yeah, so this is still part of the discussion. From the unofficial sources that we received, let's say, unofficial feedback that we received, it seems that the Commission would be in favor of setting some levels, and for certain nutrients which have no potential adverse events, setting no levels, But this hasn't been confirmed. We need to see the proposal, the Commission proposal, to be able to say that. But we are aware that for the moment, they looked at 6 vitamins and minerals, but then we will see what they will do.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is about the problems that happened with yeast rice in Japan and
Yes.
The quality issue. If they would have, if they are going to have influence on the European decision.
This is, of course, I mean, when I saw this, I said, oh my God, no. Because of course, this is just kind of things that, might have an influence. Yes, I mean, EFSA is certainly informed of what happened. But from the other hand, I think that if we look at what indeed happened in Japan, we can see that this is a really a quality issue, a Japan-related issue that might not happen in Europe, because in Europe we have other, let's say, rules, and the type of monacolin that was involved in the incident cannot be used in Europe. Although I have seen some articles, even on LinkedIn, that were really negative. And we are, as EHPM, we are exploring also with professors and universities, if we could build an argumentation to better explain what the problem was, because it's still in Japan, it's still not clear. I mean, they haven't finalized the issue from a scientific point of view. So it's really hard also for us to go out with a statement saying, voila. But we are looking on that, to do that, because we want to avoid any possible, negative effect in Europe. But of course, it's not positive. But if, and I hope that EFSA will look at it with a critical mind, we'll see that, I hope, because it's a European Food Safety Authority, and I think that the least that they could do, this is not an incident that might influence them.
Yeah, I share your views, and I think Linda too. It was, well, the timing was very bad. Of course, but the Japanese authorities did the necessary. It was clearly a case of, well, it was a dramatic case, of course, but it was contamination. And in fact, it should not have a negative impact, but who are we to say that?
Yeah.
And a last question. Oh no, there are still questions coming in.
Okay, great.
Some of the participants is asking the next questions. what to think of the pharmaceutical sector interest in HADs?
Well, that I use, from when I started work for the HPM, I always avoided to put me in contrast with the medical or the pharmaceutical sector, because this is not our objective, I mean, I think that there are also a lot of pharmaceutical companies that produce supplements too, more and more we can see those. But indeed, there is an interest of the traditional herbal medicine sector. Traditional herbal medicine sector says it all, so it's botanicals that are medicines, and the same botanicals can be used in supplements. And of course, there is a competition issue. And this was clear also what I said during, when I briefly discussed the health claim, the work of the European Parliament on the health claim report. That was clear. I mean, we have seen amendments coming from certain, let's say the majority of them were German MEPs, really against tradition of using supplements, so it's clear that there is an interest, an economic interest that could be also seen in certain dossiers related to novel foods, for instance. I mean, we have seen the case of pelargonium, for instance, so it's the same thing. And this is problematic for us because, of course, the supplement sector is a small sector. I mean, we are growing, but as far as the lobbying is concerned, it's really we are doing everything by our own, and we are not supported by anybody, And Valerie and Linda know how difficult it is to gain the attention and the support of MEPs and also of national members of the parliament. So this is a great challenge we have, but we are putting all our efforts to succeed on that. But there is competition, and they are, and this is something that we need to deal with.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes.
Last question, more a statement, in fact, that it is quite difficult indeed to find all the information about the current maximum levels and or warning sentences, and if there is a kind of database for that.
I mean, for the maximum levels that are currently applied in the EU?
Yes, indeed.
At the HPM, we have done the exercise, we have done the exercise. We have constructed a table, putting together the levels that we are aware of that are mandatory or not mandatory, because there are some member states that have mandatory levels, like Belgium, I guess, Italy, France, but there are other member states that just have approaches.
Yeah.
They are not mandatory, so it's really, not the same. It's a heterogeneous situation, let's say, but we have it, and I think that if you are interested, Valerie can share what we have with them.
Yeah, there are also some tools, I would say, that are very interesting from consultancy companies where you can compare for nutrients the legislative status in whole Europe, also the warnings for botanicals and so on. But yeah, it's clear that it's a difficult exercise if you have to monitor all the different markets, and as the legislation is not fully harmonized, you have to check country by country, I would say. And then last, it's more a remark about EFSA's approach to HADs and the discussion that we had, that we do not really agree with the safety assessments about HADs. The participant is referring to the fact that EFSA says that HADs can be carcinogenic, and that other studies show benefits of HADs, anti-cancer agents. This is something maybe that you can tell something about the studies that we submitted, etc., on the HPDs?
Yeah, so we submitted, so there were different studies submitted on HIDs. There was a study submitted by the Italian Toxicologists Association, CTOX, that was really a study about certain extracts containing additional plants. Then there were the studies to which also that the EHPM supported, that were developed by the University of Siena and then by another institute from in Tuscany that supported also that. And these other studies were all about the way of action of certain plants and the matrix process that is also an important element, you know, in when evaluating the safety of plants, of botanicals, and that is an element that EFSA hasn't taken into account because EFSA has looked at the isolated substance, and that's the issue, you know, that of the outcome that they reached, if you like. And then there was also a bibliographic study that was an overview of all the the bibliography beyond the safety of HIDs plants, HIDs containing plants. So, I mean, the data submitted were really complete in our opinion because they were all very important studies from different angles, I would say, and of different type. We decided to support the one of the University of Siena and the other institute because we were in contact with the Italian association that submitted them. But I mean, also CTOX is a super well-known association and scientific association. So, you know, well reputed with very skilled professors, and you know, the outcome of those this outcome is pretty deceiving and disappointing for them too. So
thanks a lot. I think that you addressed all the questions.
Great.
So thanks again for your great presentation, your participation, and your availability. And now let's deep dive into the Belgian topics. So I will we will start with Linda van Steenwinkel, that you all know. Linda is our scientific director, nearly 2 years. So yeah, we can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Linda?
I will start the slideshow.
Yeah, start the slideshow, and I give you.
Can you see the slideshow? Yes, I suppose. Okay. Dag iedereen. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. I will start a short overview of some Belgian specifics. Livia has already provided us with a very, very good overview, an extensive overview of the different dossiers that are so important for our industry. I will limit myself to some Belgian specifics. First of all, as you are all aware, in Belgium, the new nutrivigilance system was launched early in January, on the 11th January. On this first slide, there is a general introduction on the website of the Federal Public Service. There are 2 royal decrees that have been published in December 23. The first royal decree covers, in fact, the generalities, and it's really very broad. It's not very detailed. About the notification of undesirable effects linked to specific foodstuffs. Then there's a second royal decree, which is about the composition of and the tasks of the Nutrivigilance Commission of Experts. There are two types of forms by which undesirable effects can be reported. There is the online form, and you can also report through a PDF. And the general, I've put it here as a general information. You can reach the Nutrivigilance team at the Federal Public Service at the email address here. First of all, for those of you who are less familiar with Nutrivigilance, Nutrivigilance is a food vigilance system. In this case, it's a national system installed in Belgium, managed by the Federal Public Service Public Health, the objective of which is to protect consumer health by rapidly identifying undesirable effects linked to the consumption of a food. The four types of food that are covered by the Belgian Nutrivigilance system are, first of all, food supplements, then fortified foods, then foods for specific groups, food for specific groups, that's, for example, total dietary replacement for weight control, infant nutrition, and then the fourth category is novel foods. I will come back just to the difference between quality issues and issues of certain adverse reactions that are linked to individual sensitivities. Nutrivigilance, per definition, covers products that have no quality issues. So products that are completely compliant with the European and Belgian legislation, regulations, guidelines. Reporting of undesirable effects can be done by consumers. It can be done by healthcare professionals or by industry operators. The only category for which the reporting of the effects is compulsory is for industry operators. We've also asked the people at the Federal Public Service which products for which territories are concerned. These are all products, in the case of food supplements purchased on the Belgian territory, but also for products that are purchased over the internet and delivered in Belgium, received in Belgium. Another specific thing about the Belgian system is that industry operators need to report all undesirable effects, no matter how light the effect is. It's really all undesirable effects regardless of their nature and level of severity. For example, if you have someone who reports a headache, who reports some slight gastrointestinal trouble, these are also things that you have to, are compulsory to be notified to the Nutrivigilance scheme in Belgium. From the beginning, when we read the royal decrees, we thought, oh my God, this is really an empty box because only the generalities are described, and okay, there is nothing in the royal decree so far regarding the admissibility. Which case is a Nutrivigilance case? Can it be evaluated as a Nutrivigilance case? The analyzability, assignability of a report. So you need a lot of data, of course, to be able to do a good analysis of an individual report. There is no scale to assess the severity of specific cases, so far, at least. In the royal decree, the methodology by which causality will be established. Causality, is this a product which causes this specific adverse effect? Well, no, there is nothing yet about the methodology so far. The reason for this, one of the reasons for this, of course, is that we still don't have the composition of the commission. The commission is not yet installed. We also detected from the feedback that we received from our members, yes, the danger, of course, that it's in fact a Nutrivigilance system light, as we call it. So it's a very lean nutrivigilance system. But the danger of that is that this can undermine the objectivity. You need a lot by lack of data, for example, and also the usefulness, the purpose of nutrivigilance. If you can't really have a scheme of the complete context of a case, it's very easy to miss the purpose of nutrivigilance, which is protection of a consumer. And then, of course, another concern that we detected with many of our members, of course, is the danger that there will be abuses or misuses by the authorities. For example, is one case, for example, enough to take political action, to take exaggerated measures, like, for example, a dosage reduction, a complete ban for one ingredient, for a whole category of ingredients. We have a lot of question marks. So we have asked for feedback from our members several times, not just on the contents of the royal decrees, which until now still an empty box, in fact, but also on the reporting forms, for example. Is there enough data? So we have bundled all these things and we have transmitted them to the nutrivigilance team. We will continue to do that. We will be very happy if you could keep us informed of your experiences with nutrivigilance. We hope, of course, that we don't receive too many cases that are reported, but if you get in touch with the nutrivigilance system and you encounter a problem, please inform us so that we can have a good overview of how the system works, how it is evaluated, which data you have to provide, how is the quality of your interaction with the Federal Public Service, etc. So there were some things in the royal decree that were a little worrying. For example, the Federal Public Service had not foreseen that there should be a notification to an operator if the Federal Public Service receives a report about one of its products. So we have obtained that the operator will at least be notified. And there have been some notifications that we are aware of so far. Another thing in the royal decree was that industry operators were obliged, in fact, were asked, sorry, did something wrong? Yes, okay. Were in fact asked to notify the Federal Public Service nutrivigilance within 5 working days. We thought it was incredibly short notice. So we obtained that, but yeah, we had preferred to have more than 10 days, but at least we could obtain the doubling of the number of days that you have to report an adverse event. That is 10 days after you are made aware of an adverse event. And we also obtained the confirmation that the industry will be consulted before the Federal Public Service would impose any risk management measures. At this moment, we heard 2 times, I think now, that the composition of the Commission nutrivigilance would be in its final stages, but we don't have the confirmation. I think, Valerie, that this morning there was not really news at the Advisory Commission, I think. Not really, huh?
No, indeed. When I asked the question, they did not really reply to my question. Yeah. And I said, I think that they are always suggesting that the composition is in its final stage. But
yeah, indeed. That was confirmed to us in February. In February, they said, okay, we're in the final stages, but until now, we have no news, in fact. The fact that the commission is not yet in place also means that we have no further news about the methodology that will be used. So what we ask you is, yes, really, please share your experiences. It's all in the very early stages in Belgium. And we will, of course, continue to signal to the authorities and react to any problems. And yeah, let's hope that this doesn't happen, signs of abuse and misuse of the system. For those of you who are not familiar, who haven't a system of internal nutri-vigilance in your company, I would advise you, and Olivia has touched on the subject already, would advise you to consult the EHPM guidelines. EHPM guidelines for companies on the reporting of adverse events. The guidelines are, we have worked a lot on that. We have also developed an optimal form with all the necessary data to establish a complete case, in fact, if you have to report. But it's a very good document to make yourself familiar with the specifics of nutri-vigilance. Of course, these EHPM guidelines cover the whole of Europe. In Belgium, of course, you have to subject yourself to the stipulations in the royal decrees. Then an important question that has been raised by members and also in the board of BSUP is that, okay, but when I receive a report about an adverse event, an undesirable event from a consumer, and in the first stage, I don't know, has this to do with a quality issue? Has there been a contamination, for example? Has there been a substitution of an ingredient, etc.? Or is this just an adverse event to a completely compliant product? So we decided to ask at the beginning, I think at the end of April, we decided to ask FAVV, AFSCA, directly, and they responded to us, if the food does not present a quality problem, they mean if you are sure of that, but still caused one of or more adverse reactions, then you should report to nutri-vigilance. On the other hand, if an undesirable effect occurs following the ingestion of a contaminated food and or a food that is unfit for consumption, then of course it is FAVV AFSCA who is responsible. And it should be notified to FAVV AFSCA. But they said, okay, in case of doubt, and such occasion can arise, the operator responsible for the product may submit a declaration to both authorities. So I have noted here on the slide also, an adverse event report to nutri-vigilance needs to be made within 10 days after the receipt of the notification of the consumer, after you are made aware of the adverse event. This is always an individual report. It's a person-related report. De meldingsplicht, notification obligatoire, the obligatory notification to FAVV AFSCA, of course, when you are aware of a quality issue, when you have detected and established a quality issue, should be made to FAVV AFSCA within 48 hours. That's the difference. And this, of course, is a report which is product related. So that's the big difference between nutri-vigilance and meldingsplicht, notification obligatoire. To give you a short update, because Livia has already covered in extenso Article 8 files, for example, but I will give you some Belgian specifics on some Article 8 dossiers to start with. First of all, hydroxyanthracene derivatives. Livia has given you a lot of background what is going on at the European level. So in Belgium, in the beginning, when the regulation entered into force, there was not yet a reliable, how shall I say, analysis methods available. But this is now the case. So in Belgium, last year, the Belgian National Reference Laboratory finalized the development of the methods. It's a multi-method. So when FAVV AFSCA will control your product on HADs, they will be able to do it in one laboratory run. So they will control on aloin A and B, aloe imodin in one lab run. This has been validated in-house. It's in fact Sergroup who have developed the method in certain matrices. The SOPs of the method, we haven't received them yet, but I think FAVV AFSCA haven't received them either until now. We remain concerned, of course, regarding the 1 ppm limit for HADs. This maximum of 1 ppm is a value that was agreed between the participants in the meeting, in the SCOPAF meeting, but it has never been enshrined in any legislation, regulation, in fact. So, but this, in practice, the 1 ppm limit is used. There is also development underway. I haven't seen it published yet by the European Reference Laboratory for another method for detection and quantification of HADs. So, but from the beginning of this year, control on your products that contain HADs are part of the FAVV AFSCA control plan. Same for green tea extracts with epigallocatechinogalates. So the FAVV AFSCA has started its official controls at the beginning of this year, in January. Normally, for the EGCG content, there will be no problem because the former limit in Belgium before the regulation was 600 milligrams. But of course, the FAVV AFSCA will also control your labels to check if all the obligatory warnings are present on your labels. And just a reminder, in Belgium, we now have 2 categories. For non-extracted leaves, the maximum daily portion of EGCG remains 600 milligrams. For extracts, it's the provisions of Regulation 1925-2006 who now apply, and there is a maximum of 800 milligrams of EGCG. Also, keep in mind that because we often get this question from members, that only aqueous extracts, so watery extracts, and maximum alcohol 25% extracts are allowed in Belgium. It is noted as such in the Royal Decree plants. In February, on the 9th of February, the modified Royal Decree plants came into force. So it was published on the 1st of February. The consolidated version, you can always find it on the Federal Public Service website, which is very well updated every time. FoodSub, of course, the information, so FoodSub was also updated. So what is changed in this new version of the Royal Decree? Some conditions of use of certain plants and plant parts. I couldn't cover them here because we would have a lack of time. What has been removed from the Royal Decree is, of course, the root of Pelargonium sidoides, as a result of an article for consultation with Germany. The only plant part that has been that is now a novel food is the root of Pelargonium sidoides. There was a plan to remove 38 of 39 plants. I will give you a short history afterwards. There has been a TRIS notification to Europe, where the Belgian authorities planned to remove 38 of 39 plants, which they deemed novel food, in a draft through a TRIS notification. We called to action. BSUP called immediately our sister associations and EHPM to the rescue. And this Belgian draft, was successfully protested by EHPM, by Sinadiet in collaboration with the French authorities. So after the Pelargonium sidoides decision, the Belgian authorities at first established a list of 55 botanicals. They said, okay, the not novel food status or the not novel in food supplement status was not proven, according to them. We launched a call for data. The HPM collaborated, the sister associations in Europe collaborated. We were able to review the list of 55 first to a list of 39 botanicals. Our position has always been every botanical in list 3 of the Royal Decree is not novel. There have been calls for data for specific plants like Eucalyptus irradiata, Pygeum africanum, and Vaccinium myrtilloides. Then, in the end, one member state was able to send proofs of history of consumption before May 1997 for 31 botanicals. So, in fact, from the 39 that Belgium plans to remove, you can subtract 31 botanicals. There is proof of consumption before this cutoff date in the novel food legislation of May 1997. So only for 8 botanicals, in fact, according to the Belgian authorities, the non-novel food status is not proven. This is just a list of these plants, proofs of history of consumption. If you have these, it can still be sent in to our authorities. Then there was another incident. Incident happened in the Belgian Advisory Commission for Plant Preparations. In fact, they had undertaken the job to review all the plants on list 3, so our positive list 3, for which absence of a certain active substance was a condition. They wanted to update, in fact, the list. They wanted to consult the literature, the scientific literature, to see if any information has changed, because science, of course, is an ongoing endeavor. For certain plants, they were able to update according to new literature that was available. But then they stumbled upon, 14 plants, in fact, where there was no update to be found in the literature. And the cell supplements had found that these were plants that were not used in supplements since the beginning of FoodSup. That was a proposal made in the Plant Commission by the people of this working group inside the Plant Commission. I immediately said, stop, I first want to consult with the industry. So what we did then was gather arguments why these plants shouldn't be removed from a positive list. There was no danger for public health with these. It was just like an administrative decision. We assembled, in fact, we bundled all the arguments that we obtained from our working group botanicals, from the boards, and from certain experts. And in fact, we could assemble enough arguments. We have at the meeting in December, the December meeting of the Plant Commission. I represent BSUP in the Plant Commission. I have explained these arguments to the Commission, and they have listened. And they have decided to keep these plants on the positive list 3 for the time being. Within a reasonable time frame, that's about 5 years, they said they would have a look again if there were new data to be found in the literature. So this is, yes, 14 more plants that we have been able to rescue by an intervention in the Plant Commission. There have been several publications, because that's beside the individual dossiers that the Plant Commission evaluates. There is of course also the general work in the form of advices and monographies. In 23-24, in fact, there have been advices that are less specific for food supplements, except maybe kratom, which has been deemed a dangerous plant. There has been an advice about, this is important for food supplements, about the concomitant use of ginger and anticoagulants. So this advice has been published last year with a warning that has been imposed. But this discussion has restarted. It's not excluded that in the next version of this advice, this warning will be modified. That's all I can say at this moment. The discussion is ongoing again inside the Plant Commission. Then there have been advices on the seeds of Cannabis sativa, on the use of Papaver somniferum seeds in bakery products, for example. Nuts, Cannaria indicum, Kinari nuts, in fact. And the last one, that was in January 2024, the last advice was about the hot chip challenge. You have probably heard of the one chip challenge. It's in fact a tortilla chip, which was marketed in several parts of the world. A tortilla chip containing a very high amount of capsaicin and capsaicinoids of the very, very hot kinds. On a certain analysis, for example, the heat of peppers is expressed in Scoville units. And this tortilla chip contains 2 million, was measured at 2 million Scoville heat units, which is extremely sharp. Now, this product was used in the hot chip challenge, a challenge that many young people, that appeals to many young people. The original producer of this hot chip had retracted his product from the market after one teenager died, and after several adverse effects, and sometimes very serious effects, were established, like vomiting, diarrhea, burning or irritation, severe irritation of the throat and the gastrointestinal tract, respiratory problems can arise, skin problems, eye problems. So the Plant Advisory Commission issued this advice where they said, okay, such a product, and especially one that appeals to children and young people, is too dangerous to have on the market. And as a result, these products were retracted from the Belgian markets by FAVV AFSCA in early February. Maybe it's good to mention that Capsicum chinense is not the same as the Capsicum annuum and the Capsicum frutescens that are at this moment on our Belgium list 3. The Carolina Reaper pepper and the Trinidad Moruga scorpion pepper are Capsicum chinense peppers. Monographies, the latest that have been published last year, both last year, are lavender and 2 types of thyme, Thymus vulgaris and Thymus sigis. You can read all the advices and the former advices always on the website. And I don't think I have to remind you that advices of the Commission are not legally binding, but that the supplements at the Federal Public Service does apply them in the case of notification of new products. I think this is the last slide. Some more news. Well, it's not news. It's really established tools that the Plant Commission provides. First of all, there's the list of recommended analysis methods. There has been some discussion because some of these recommended analysis methods are not performable by commercial labs, or reference materials are not available. The methods are outdated. So we had a very sound discussion inside the Plant Commission. So a promise was made that this list will be updated regularly. Also note that these are recommended analysis methods. These are not compulsory. It is not compulsory to use these methods. Maybe an important use for those of you who have MACA products on the market. So a new method has been published. It has been developed at the University of Antwerp. There has been a project some time ago, Anna Herba Food. This method has been developed in that context. As you know, MACA is on list 3, but absence of alkaloids, of all alkaloids, is one of the conditions of use. So our members were in trouble in the sense that first, MACA always contains some alkaloids. It's even the how shall I say, the active principle in MACA. And second, our members were not able to find, yes, how shall I say, to find a commercial lab who could perform this. So this method will be updated. Then there's a guideline for plants. If you want to add another plant on list 3, you should, there is a guideline to do that, which data you should provide in that case. But some companies have tried this for specific extracts, for example, a polyphenol fraction. This doesn't work. If you want to add a plant to list 3, you have to do that for a complete plant or plant part. And then there's also something I want to say about the limitations on active ingredients in essential oils for oral use. There you can calculate, you have to calculate cumulative values if you use more than one essential oils in your product. For example, Carvacrol and Thymol, for example. Thymol is 120 milligrams per day maximum. Carvacrol in Belgium is 60 milligrams per day, which is different from France, because in France, Carvacrol and Thymol, it's both 120 milligrams per day. So it's always good because it's a list that is not very well known yet about our members who work with essential oils. So in fact, I believe Valerie will continue. I hope it was clear. If there are any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Linda, for this very comprehensive and quite unique overview, and for all the work that you do for our industry in the advisory board for botanicals. Very appreciated.
Yes, I have a role as an observer, but of course, if there are how shall I say, issues that are of importance for the whole of our industry, I don't hesitate to intervene. Yeah.
And with success, I must say.
Okay, so, thank you.
Shall we go through the questions now? Maybe it's more logic, or do you prefer?
What do you prefer, Valerie?
We can address them now, maybe.
After you have finished.
Well, we can do it now if you want to.
Yeah, okay. I haven't followed on the question. I don't know.
No, but I did for you. So
okay.
let's see. It's first it was about nutri-vigilance, and the question was, does the mandatory nutri-vigilance reporting also apply if the product was purchased on a Belgian website but sent abroad? If the consumer lives abroad, I think you
Yeah.
addressed that one.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Indeed, well, I addressed half of it, let's say. If a product is sold in Belgium, is clear. If a product is bought on a website and it is delivered in Belgium, Belgium nutri-vigilance also applies. If it's really limited to the Belgian territory, you have to see it like that. If an adverse effect arrives outside of Belgium, that is a question that has not been answered by FAVV, but normally it is in Belgian territory and it's not a Belgian nutri-vigilance case, if I'm not mistaken, Valerie.
Well, I think that we received a quite strange answer from the nutri-vigilance.
Yes, yeah.
From the nutri-vigilance authorities, and it was Ms. De Klok, that some of you might know,
Dominique De
that
Klok,
told
yes.
us that the basis was in fact the purchase activity. So she answered,
Okay.
so if the product is, she answered that the product must be purchased in Belgium. The place of consumption is not important. So
Okay.
I mean,
In that case,
this is a little bit different than what you just explained, because I'm thinking about e-commerce. If a French person purchases a food supplement on a Belgian website and he has some adverse events, well, in that case, according to Ms. De Klok's answer,
so yes, okay,
it would
it also
under,
applies.
yeah, also
Okay.
applies, which is
Sorry,
strange.
people, that's an important addition by Valerie.
I just checked it to be sure in our notes during your presentation, because it's different, for example, from cosmetovigilance and pharmacovigilance.
Yes,
I know.
that's right. Yeah,
so this
that's
is
right.
well, but like we say, there are a lot of things that are not really clear at this moment. So, but this question we asked it and we received an official answer.
We received an official answer, but I'm sure that for nutri-vigilance we will encounter many issues that we haven't yet thought of. But that's why my insistence to share with us your experiences with nutri-vigilance. Yeah.
And another question is also about nutri-vigilance. And the question is, do you have to collect all information from the consumer within 10 days? Or can you also add information in the registration system later?
Well, that's a question we haven't asked specifically, but there is, of course, a minimum information that you should gather. And your reporting duty is within 10 days. So within 10 days, you have to make a report, even if you don't have all the data. And it's important to be aware that some consumers will not be able or not be willing to give you all information. But it's quite important to be as complete as possible, to have really a file that can be evaluated in all objectivity.
Yeah, indeed. From the information that members shared with us, often the cell nutri-vigilance of the ministry will contact you later and could ask also additional information, for example. This is something that could happen.
Yeah, we have seen several examples already. Even if we don't have a commission yet, the cell nutri-vigilance, the team nutri-vigilance is already working. Yeah.
Indeed. Then about the royal decree, one of the participants is making a statement, and it's true that in the Belgian royal decree for Camellia sinensis, the maximum of 600 milligrams is still mentioned.
Yes, it's still mentioned, I know. Yeah. But anyway, we have confirmation that they course, they have to comply with the Clean Tea regulation, so it's 800 milligrams for
Yeah.
extracts.
Indeed.
But the condition that only aqueous extracts and maximum 25% alcohol extracts are allowed remains.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
That's what I answered in the chat. Thanks for the
Okay.
confirmation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, somebody is explaining and referring to, well, the fact that the legislation for nutrients is not harmonized. And she's giving the example for manganese. You know
Yeah.
that in Belgium there is a maximum of 1 milligram, and abroad there is 2 milligram. And the person asks if a food supplement containing 2 milligram manganese would be accepted in Belgium.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the questions. I don't see it at this moment.
Well, I can maybe start answering.
Yeah.
Of course, well, as we are not in an harmonized context, it's the
Yeah.
Belgian law. So the maximum of the Royal Decree for Nutrients,
Yes,
the Royal
of
Decree of
course.
the 30th of May 2021
Yeah.
applies.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Somebody is asking if we are going to speak on the use of German on labels and caps. Yes, we will immediately after this Q&A start answering, addressing those points. I think that we answered all the questions. And we'll start.
I don't know. I see a question also from Joris Gelen. It's about green tea, I think. I can't. Yeah, green tea, yes. Lower maximum for leaves, higher for extracts doesn't seem logic to me. No, indeed, no. To me, neither. In fact, yeah, it's true that member states are still allowed to publish a stricter regulation if it is scientifically substantiated. That's very true. But in this case, for extracts containing EGCG, we have official confirmation from the authorities in Belgium that they do apply the 800 milligrams for extracts. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. If you have other questions, you can still ask them in the Q&A. But
Yeah.
I will, as time is running, I will go to the two last topics. The one of the use of German. And we receive a lot of questions actually about this file from members. And I do not know if you saw it, but I published a vlog a short video of less than 5 minutes to explain the file. And that's also what I am going to do today for you. So the use of German, in fact, was always mandatory. But due to an error in the transposition of the FIC, the Food Information to Consumers Directive, into Belgian law, there was a loophole preventing the sanctioning of non-compliance with the language law. So what does the language law state? The law, by the way, is still the law of the 24th of January 1977. The law says that the information on the label shall be written at least in the language or languages of the language area where the products are marketed. So in other simple terms, your label should be bilingual, French and Dutch if you sell a food supplement in the Brussels region, at least Dutch in Flanders, French in Wallonia, except in the German-speaking community, and German in the German-speaking community, which is limited to 9 municipalities that you can see on the slide. I will not go through them. There was a legal loophole, and what happened was that the Food Safety Agency could not sanction the non-compliance with the language law. And that's why you never get a fine, even if your label, until now, if your label was not okay or not compliant. So on the 22nd of September 22, a law was published that ended that legal gap that prevented companies that did not comply with the language legislation from being sanctioned. The mandatory use of German in sales in the German-speaking community came into effect immediately on the 22nd of September. Minister Clarenval, the Minister of Charge of AFSCA FAVV, thanks to the lobbying of FEVIA and BISAP and also Comeos, the Federation of the Supermarkets, introduced a period of tolerance, first for 1 year, and then it was extended with another year, so until the 31st of December 2024. However, AFSCA FAVV told us that in case of complaints, they would have to act, but they will not give you a fine. We received a written confirmation of that. The legislative amendments of the 22nd of September 22 resolved the legal gap. So please note that a new article refers to labeling, I put it in yellow, instead of previous just label. And what, if we look to the FIC legislation, you can see the definition of labeling. So it's broader. By labeling, we can understand any words, particulars, trademarks, brand names, pictorial matter, or symbols relating to a foodstuff and appearing on any packaging, document, notice, label, ring or color accompanying or referring to that foodstuff. The language legislation is a political, very sensitive issue in Belgium, as most of you will know. Therefore, the correction law of the 22nd of September 22 went into effect immediately with no transition period. We could count on the joint lobby with FEVIA and Comeos, the Association of the Supermarkets, to advocate for a tolerance period. Note, it is not a transition period, but only a tolerance period. This has been granted, as I just said to you, until the 31st of December 2024. This means that from the 1st of January 2025, your labeling will have to be compliant if you sell in one of the 9 municipalities of German-speaking Belgium that we just defined. Important point is that only the mandatory notifications must be listed in German. You can find a list of the mandatory notifications on MyBISAP or on the website of the Ministry of Health. If there is a complaint, FAVV, AFSCA, the Food Safety Agency, will have to act, but they confirmed that until the 31st of December this year, you will not receive any fine. We understand at BISAP, we understand your difficulties to put all the mandatory provisions in the 3 languages on the labels. That is why we started advocating for the use of QR codes. Minister Clarenval has since sought the legal advice to check whether QR codes meet the requirements of the FIC legislation. The answer, unfortunately, was negative. So QR codes are not a solution. The second option could be the use of PLOF labels. You see a PLOF label on the presentation. PLOF labels are indeed accepted by the Belgian authorities, but we know that they are expensive and not sustainable from an ecological point of view. That's why we decided with FEVIA and Comeos to try to obtain a derogation for small packaging smaller than 30 square centimeter. We are still insisting, but we will keep you updated on the development of the talks with the Clarenval cabinet. What will happen as from the 1st of January 2025? The tolerance period, it's not a transition period, it's mere a tolerance period, will end on the 31st of December 2024. Food supplements sold before the 31st of December of this year, we know that they have a shelf life of 2 or 3 years. So few food supplements might still be at the point of sales after the 1st of January 2025. BSUP would like to avoid that members will have to withdraw those rare cases that do not comply with the legislation on German from the point of sales. We asked an official question to the Food Safety Agency, FAWW AFSCA, and we received the following answer, that the companies had sufficient time to get the labeling right. Cases of non-compliance on labeling in German will be investigated on a case-by-case basis, and action will be taken in consultation with the companies on the timetable. We have been informing you since 2021 about this file. Of course, we advise our members to bring their labels into compliance, but should some non-compliant products still be in the point of sales after the 31st of December 2024, based on the efforts that you make to bring yourself into compliance with the legislation, you can try to show your goodwill to the Food Safety Agency, AFSCA, FAWW, who will treat the cases on a case-by-case basis. This is a summary of the use of German file. And then, last but not least, we wanted also to inform you about the Single-Use Plastics Directive, and more specifically about the question if liquid food supplements need to be compliant with this legislation or not. This would have as a consequence that SUP bottles would need a cap that remains attached to the container during the product use, a so-called tethered cap. The directive on single-use plastics came into force on the 2nd of July 2019. Its aim is to prevent marine and environmental litter. Needless to say that one does not find food supplements packagings in nature, of course. But the sub-directive was implemented, has been transposed into the Belgian law via the Royal Decree of the 9th of December 2021. Although food supplements are covered by the food legislation, it was expected that sub-containers for liquid food supplements would be excluded from the scope of the directive, as liquid food supplements are not beverages. However, the Belgian authorities informed BSUP that the requirements of the directive should also be applied for liquid food supplements, as from the 3rd of July 2024. BSUP did not agree with this interpretation, and we started a discussion with the Belgian Ministry of Environment. It's not health this time, but it's environment. And we discussed it with them, and we shared our arguments that I will also share with you in a few minutes. The Belgian Ministry for Environment was not convinced, but they decided to ask the advice of the European Commission. And at this moment, I checked last Friday, they still did not receive the Commission's answer. So we are still waiting for that advice. Once again, we noticed that different member states will apply the legislation in a different way, creating potentially unfair competition. So I just will mention some countries where we received information via our colleagues within EHPM, where the file is also being discussed. So in Spain, they make a difference between liquid food supplements in the form of syrups and shots. An official question was asked to the Ministry for the Ecological Transition in Spain, called MITECO, and the ministry answered that if the food supplement is ingested by drinking and its consumption does not require the use of cutlery, then it is a drink. However, they referred to the guidelines of the European Commission. And those guidelines are very clear, I believe. They state that those products in liquid form, although they can be drunk, that are not consumed directly from the container or require dilution to be consumed, are not considered as beverages under the directive. So there will be a difference made between syrups and droplet bottles that would not be considered as beverages, and shots directly consumed from the bottle and that are considered as beverages. This means that syrups and droplet bottles will not fall under the sub-legislation and would not need a tethered cap. Shots, on the contrary, are considered as a beverage in Spain, and they would need a tethered cap. In Italy, some Italian companies asked a question to the National Consortium for Packaging, and they have the same position as Belgium. But our Italian colleagues of Integratori e Salute are still discussing also with their authorities. So we do not know if there is a further evolution in this file. Our French colleagues from SYNADIET find that food supplements do not fall under the sub-legislation, and they are joined by ADELF, and ADELF is, let's say, the French Valipac, so the organism for valorization of the packaging. The authorities' position of the French authorities is unknown at the moment. In Portugal, we do not know the position of the authorities, but our colleagues from the Portuguese Food Supplements Association, APAT, they find, of course, that food supplements do not fall under the sub-legislation. Needless to add that our EU association, EHPM, the other EU association, Food Supplements Europe, and all the Food Supplements Association in Europe share our position that food supplements do not fall under the sub-legislation. We based our position on legal, economic, and ecological arguments. Let us look at the legal arguments that we gathered. So our first argument is to say that food supplements have a known definition in the Food Supplements Directive 2002/46. The directive defines food supplements distinctly from beverages, suggesting that liquid food supplements should not fall under the same regulations as beverages. Our second argument might be the strongest of all, as it is the interpretation of the European Commission herself. In our own guidelines for the sub-legislation, the European Commission clearly states that products in liquid form that are not consumed directly from the container or need further dilution before being drinkable do not qualify as beverages. This is really clear. It's quite astonishing why the Belgian authorities do not follow the guidelines of the European Commission to that point. Thirdly, we looked at the additives legislation that you are all familiar with. Legislation, it's Regulation 1333 of 2008, and also to the guidance documents for additives. Liquid food supplements are included in a separate category than beverages. Beverages fall under category 14 in the additives legislation, whilst food supplements fall under category 17. This is another proof of a clear distinction between liquid food supplements and beverages. And finally, we found our last legal arguments in the Belgian VAT law that makes a clear distinction between beverages and liquid food supplements for fiscal reasons. So the Belgian VAT law clearly states that liquid food supplements should not be regarded as drinks if they are presented in small ampoules or in packaging showing that they may be taken in quantities not exceeding 1 tablespoon or 15 milliliter per day. We also looked at some economic arguments. Companies will face significant economic losses because they have generally large quantities of existing packaging stock that are not compliant anymore with the new regulations. Many businesses have stocks for over a year, so this would be a real waste of money and also have a negative ecological impact. We also fear problems of availability of packaging material. Liquid food supplements often use pharmaceutical packaging materials, which are not subject to SUP regulation. This means that suitable alternatives might not be readily available in the market, causing potential supply chain disruptions and increased cost for businesses. Finally, we took into account sustainability arguments. Sorry, I was a little bit too fast. So we took into account sustainability arguments. PET packaging is argued to be more environmental friendly compared to glass. It has a lower carbon footprint, it is lighter, and it is less likely to break during transport, which reduces both the risk of damage and associated waste. The lightweight nature of PET compared to glass means less fuel for transport, further decreasing also the carbon footprint. Given that many bottles are produced abroad and must travel long distances, the weight saving of PET play a crucial role in reducing the overall environmental impact. Once, with a touch of humor, we asked Copilot, the AI tool of Microsoft, what he was thinking about the subject. And I must say we are relieved, as Copilot clearly states that the SUP directive does not apply to liquid food supplements. No, more seriously, we will of course keep you duly informed as soon as we will receive the answer from the European Commission and from the Belgian Ministry of Environment. So this is the end of the presentations. So we will go to the questions, and do not hesitate to ask your questions via the Q&A if you have not done so already. Let's look at the questions. Okay.
Sorry, I have to adjust the screen.
Yes.
The video. Yes, the video started. Okay.
Yeah.
Last, you need some questions, Valerie. I will go through it. I have tried to answer some of them in the meanwhile.
Okay.
There is a question. Hello.
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, there. Yeah. There is a question what the requirements are for the size on the boxes. That is, of course, described in the FIC regulation.
Absolutely.
Valerie?
Yeah, absolutely. I do not know it by heart.
I do not know it by heart also, but you have
But
to
nothing
follow.
changed. But it's clearly we can answer also the questions after the webinar. So
Yes,
we can
do that.
refer to the article in the FIC
Yes.
legislation. It's
Okay, we
clearly
will answer
mentioned
that.
there.
Yeah. Okay. Another question: if it is possible to mix languages in order to save space on the boxes.
Mixed languages. Well, I just explained the legislation. So you can mix languages, but at least you will have to use the language of the territory. So we are
Yes,
speaking
indeed.
about the use of German
Yeah.
for sales in German-speaking Belgium. So
Yeah.
the mandatory information, important to stress that, the mandatory information will have to be on the packaging in German, at least in German.
Yes. There was a second part of the question that has already been answered. Do you or the authorities have any practical solutions for the challenge with limited spaces? I think you have answered that extenso, Valerie. You have covered the subject.
Yeah, we first suggested the QR code, which it was checked by the Ministry of Minister Clarenval, and it was not sufficient. It was estimated not to be sufficient to be compliant with the language legislation. The second option is the how do we call it, the labels, the multi-layer labels. Those are accepted, so this is an option, but we know that they are expensive and also not really sustainable. So if you everybody has to if everybody is doing efforts to be more sustainable, those multi-layer labels, they are not really sustainable. What we are looking at now, but it's really, I do not want to give false hope. It's really something that it's just to show you which efforts BISAP is doing with the support of FEVIA and also Comeus for this file. But I'm not sure, but we ask now if derogation for small packagings would be accepted. But I will not create false hopes, because I'm not sure that we will have a solution and that it will be accepted.
Yes, okay. Another part of that same question from the same person is, if you break the law, in fact, with your languages on your boxes, what will be the fine after 31st of December 2024?
Yeah, that's a good one. You know that the Food Safety Agency, AFSCA, FAVV, they do not have tables with levels of fines. Like, for example, in France, I believe they have several levels of fines. This is not the case in Belgium. And what we know is that, well, if it's the first fine, it will be really reasonable. It's nothing compared to the levels of fines that we see in the Netherlands or in France. So in Belgium, the fines are rather low, I would say. But if they take you a second or a third time for not being compliant with the law, of course, the fine will be higher.
Yes. Yeah. Then there is an interesting question from an anonymous attendee who doesn't say to what he or she refers, but I suppose it's about the STAP directive, the single-use plastics. The question is, do we have legal ground in Belgium if we apply the definitions stated in the directive 2019-904, the Spanish approach? If I'm not mistaken, the definition is not written in any law directive in Belgium.
Yes.
So we can always refer to the European definition in the directive.
No. The characteristic of a directive is that it has to be transposed in Belgium law. And I think that I addressed it. So it has been transposed in the Royal Decree of the 9th of December 2021.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. There were some other questions that I've tried to answer. Margot had another question about languages, but this was covered in the presentation. And there was another person who asked what a DRIS notification is. This person has misunderstood on my slide. The person thinks that the DRIS notification has paused these 38 botanicals, but the opposite is true, of course. I have answered the question already with a link for
Okay.
explanation about the TRIS notification
Yeah.
on the site of the European Commission. And in
Okay.
fact, maybe you can tell a bit more, Valerie, about this TRIS notification that Belgium did
Well,
with the royal decree.
the objective of a TRIS notification, TRIS is an acronym that stands for Technical Rules. So it's the TRIS notification is very important because the objective is to avoid that a member state should implement some technical rules that could hamper the free trade in the European Union. That's really what's happened. And that is why, thanks to the TRIS notification, so Belgium, before adopting the new royal decree on botanicals, was had the obligation to publish a TRIS notification. That happened, and that is why, with the help of CNADIET and EHPM, CNADIET contacted the French authorities, and they were able to react. And we also reacted as national association, and so did EHPM as European association. So it's thanks to the information of the TRIS notification and the procedure that that authorizes a member state or a stakeholder to make a comment that Belgium had to withdraw its project, and that we were able to save the 39 botanicals.
Yeah, the complete answer, Valerie. We have one other question. I think it's the last one. A person who asks if she understands well, it is not authorized to add a leaflet in German inside the box instead of all the packaging. I think you have answered, Valerie, but it's not bad that someone asked the question again.
Okay, well, it's authorized, but it will not be enough.
It's not enough.
You can of course give information in German to your consumer in the box, but this will not be sufficient to be compliant with the legislation for languages, unfortunately.
Yeah, all compulsory information is described in the FIC regulation, and all this compulsory information should be available in the 3 languages if you want to sell in the German region, of course, on your packaging. The consumer has to see it immediately, in fact. That was the last question, Valerie.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I hope that everybody enjoyed the afternoon. We will share the presentations and also the recording with you. So, and if you have still questions after this meeting, well, go to the BSUP website, look at the vlog on the use of German, and also do not hesitate to contact us. We will be very happy to answer you. Thank you for your attendance, and looking forward to see you at the next BSUP event.
Yeah, if you have still questions, we are there for you. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
To
Thank you,
all
Livia.
participants. Thank you, Livia.
Linda.
Thank you, Valerie.
Bye-bye. Good afternoon.
Bye-bye.